Welcome, everyone. This is Courtney Rowland, Mark Passwaters, and Jamie McCoy for the Aggie Yell F-Word Meaning Football podcast. I am in my car. It's Christmas time and lots of traveling going on, but I'm grateful and thankful that Jamie and Mark could join us today because I know they've got a lot going on, especially in the world of football right now. Mark, it was a huge weekend over the weekend. A lot of official visitors and a lot of people in town. Was there any big news that we need to know about?
Yes and no. Yes, there is big news. No, I don't know what it is yet. It's one of those things where this is classic A&M, and Jamie can attest to this. They've gotten commits, or they've had people tell them that they're going to commit. That has not come out yet. I can't remember, and I said this last night, I can't remember a time when somebody committed and then announced it while they were on campus.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't do that when it comes with A&M, which drives me absolutely batty because I'm sitting here going, okay, who are you and what are you doing? And can you please hurry up with it?
Mm-hmm.
Other places they do, but A&M, I can't ever recall that. So I think that they're in good shape with a couple guys. I think that they're going to get Torian York, the linebacker out of Central Texas. I think they're going to get Tony Grimes, the corner from UNC, and that's a big one. That personally for me, that's a big one because I've loved this guy since he was a junior in Virginia Beach. And I thought that A&M had a good crack at him last time, and UNC came in at the end and snagged him. But that's an absolute necessity. Still waiting to hear on Mason Cobb, the linebacker from Oklahoma State, but I think that there's a strong chance they get him. And I think that there are several guys that were in there on official visits this weekend that they stand in a good position to either flip or gain between now and Wednesday.
So early signing day, Jamie. I know that there wasn't an early signing day back when you were going through the process, but just in general, what type of things are going through these kids' minds at this point, right, leading up to signing day? A lot of choices to be made. Do you think most of them already know?
I think for the most part they already know. I know back in my day when you were signing, you did it in February, and then you came back and I know you could start early should you want to, or even in that first summer session. A lot of people chose to come in during that second summer session, and I think that was the route that I chose. For the ones that want to get on the field and make their presence known immediately, I think they're the ones who right now are saying, let me get all my ducks in a row as far as my grades and make sure that I'm able to graduate early. And really, you're just thinking, how can I get in on the team and make an impact as soon as possible? So for me, I know, I mean, I could honestly answer this now. I was kind of scared. You're a high schooler, you're 17, 18-year-old. I was 17 as I graduated before I turned 18. And you know that you're going into this college atmosphere with these 19, 20, 21-year-olds. And it's time to step up and step to the plate. So it's the best of both worlds. But I know that they got to be on top of these guys and trying to see who's going to be landing there here pretty shortly within the next month.
And go ahead.
I think it's since Jamie's so old. What you graduated 6, 7, 8 years ago. Things have changed so much, though. I mean, now when Jamie came in, the idea was if a guy's ready, he'll play. If he needs a little bit of seasoning, we'll redshirt him. Now that's not redshirting is almost unheard of now, and I think that it's not even get these guys in for the first summer session. It's get as many in as possible at the midterm. And I think that's the thing that A&M is trying to figure out with a lot of. I think all 13 of the guys they have committed will sign this week.
Okay.
So now they're kind of like, okay, who are we going to have in here in March?
Yeah,
and that's the real difference. I think Jamie can correct me if I'm wrong. It just seems like the schedule, the calendar for these kids has been sped up.
Oh
in the
yeah,
last
absolutely.
5 to 7 years.
And we've talked about this before, how NIL has really changed everything. Do you see it trickling down into the high school ranks already?
Yeah.
And how much is that going to play and influence something? And then also just the players that are already there. Let's take, like A&M and some of their star players and some of the young guys. Do you see them possibly entering the transfer portal if they don't get the NIL money that, like Bryce Young is getting?
Go ahead, Jamie. Take that one.
Man, I feel like I know NIL is taking a part, especially going into the high school ranks, because it's going to trickle down no matter what. We've already opened those floodgates, so it's only a matter of how can I get to this kid earlier than the next guy that's going to be trying to get there. I don't know. It's a slippery slope. You don't want to get involved with that, but to think that a kid is going to be getting Bryce Young or asking for Bryce Young numbers, it's unheard of just because he's already won a Heisman. He's in commercials. He's doing things that your typical student athlete isn't doing. So I don't think it's right for guys to come in expecting that number, but I know that some of these high school kids, I know it's out there, and if there's even one school that's doing anything to pay them, they're going to be asking the next school, hey, how can you top this? How can you top this offer? What can you do for me? So I hate to see that we may even be going down these ranks, but I mean, it comes with the territory. And like I said, we've already opened those floodgates.
Yeah, I think it's already happening. I think there are kids in high school that are getting paid already. I think that there are college programs who have boosters out there that are paying these kids. And the only way that this is going to stop, where there's going to be what I've called a reversion to the mean, is when some of these kids get paid ungodly amounts of money and then go and suck.
Yeah.
To be brutally honest about it, it's going to take some of these kids busting hard for these donors or these business owners to sit there and say, this isn't worth my money.
Yeah, I agree. Somebody's going to have to get burned and be thinking, man, I want a refund on that.
Yeah, exactly.
And unfortunately, it's not going to be able to come around.
Right. And to Courtney, to your question about, kids going in the portal because they're not getting enough NIL money if they want to renegotiate, absolutely already happening.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
These guys want their money. They want it now. And I think that in many cases, you're seeing what you see at the professional level in that some of these guys, for lack of a better term, overvalue themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They're thinking, okay, I went out and I had a 35 tackle season at linebacker and I was a backup in 8 games and I need a pay raise because you project this as a starter. And the other guy's going to say like, well, you weren't a starter and there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's another thing where there's going to have to be a change where things will have to even back out is some of these kids are just going to be like, okay, I can go and do better somewhere else. And then they're going to find out that no, they can't do better somewhere else, that their mouth has overloaded their backside. And, there's just not a place for them.
Yeah. Grass ain't always greener.
Absolutely.
So, since last time we've talked, I believe there's been more people that have entered the transfer portal for Texas A&M. I think it was a little over 17 is what we were talking about last weekend. Going back to the question I just asked before we get more into the transfer portal, are you already seeing that at A&M? Has there been players, Mark? Can you tell us, has there been players that have entered the portal due to NIL?
I wouldn't be surprised. I can't name names, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. For the reasons that I mentioned. But I think in the case of A&M, you can see a pretty clear differential in why guys went in.
Mm-hmm.
5 of them went in because they had no choice. They were told to get lost. You had a couple that left because they had, family or friend ties that went to another program. Then you had, the vast, two of them weren't even on the roster this year. And then a bunch of them, just flat wanted playing time.
Mhm.
And, part of that, I think, is if you get more playing time, then you get somebody interested in paying you better. So I think that it goes part and partial. I'm not necessarily sure that some of these guys wanted more money from A&M, or they wanted money from A&M and were just told no. But they recognized the fact that they weren't in a position at A&M where they were going to get what they wanted. So they went somewhere else.
Mhm. So at this point with the portal, what number are we looking at? What is A&M at right now?
I believe 20,
Last I heard it, 22,
22, 23, something like that.
something like that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the number. That's the cold hard number. But I mean, looking at it, I'm just, like I said, five were told to leave. Two weren't on the roster. So that makes it what, more realistic 16. But that's just, maybe that's just me taking a number because it makes me feel better. But it seems to be a little less brutal,
What you just said.
I guess you could say.
I guess I was under the impression, or at least thought, that A&M would probably make a move with coaching and getting an OC and having that in place before early signing day. We don't anticipate that happening, seeing how signing day is right around the corner.
Yeah. Basically, I was of like mind, and I think that they had really targeted Riley from TCU. They
Mhm.
really thought they were going to get Garrett Riley, and they offered him big money, 3 years, $6 million, and he decided not to take it. I think that they were under the impression that that was pretty much a done deal, and it fell apart. And now you got them I wouldn't say scrambling. I'm sure they've got other options, but now they're kind of like, let's make sure we get the guys that we have in. Let's get them assigned, and then we can make the move, and make whatever changes are necessary to the position coaches after that. And I think that that's a little cold blooded when it comes to some of these recruits, but they don't have to sign next or this week. I think they all will, but they don't have to.
Correct.
But then after that, I think they'll probably get a little more serious about getting this thing done.
Yeah. Well, like you just said, it's a little bit cold-blooded when it comes to the recruiting aspect. Jamie, would that impact your decision at all if you didn't have a position coach set in stone?
It very well can. A lot of times, well, I know for me, I was recruited by Coach Thurman, who actually coached DBs. So I didn't play DB, but me and him had a good relationship. But at the end of the day, it really boils down to your head coach and do you have a vibe with them. So not having the OC, I could see how a player would want to have that established and know what type of offense they're going to be running when they get on campus. But at the same time, if Jimbo's had a good enough relationship and done a good enough job recruiting, and whoever the other position coaches are as well, I could see them being able to give themselves some leeway, some leash room, some wiggle room just to we're at that time where these guys, a lot of these teams, I thought that the holdup with Raleigh was just the fact that he may want to see if he's going to win a national championship before he decides. But obviously, they made their push for him, and he declined. Like Mark said, I think you go after what's there to be got right now, and then once signing day happens on Wednesday, you kind of reestablish, go back to the whiteboard and say, okay, who are realistic options and who are we going to go after? So
Right.
I'm still hopeful that they end up with a guy that's going to be a good splash for us and be on the radar of some of these recruits and get some excitement going and some momentum built up for us.
So
Yeah,
you don't think, Mark, the whole Riley thing and him declining has anything to do with the fact that he doesn't want his team right now to know with the playoffs, or is that a done deal?
No, I think that it's not. He's going to stay with TCU. That's the impression that I've got. He reportedly signed a new contract with them. And I think that he's just looking at, what's the best deal for Garrett Riley right now? Is it coming to A&M and coaching in the SEC with personnel he's not familiar with? Or is it staying at TCU with a new contract in the Big 12, which is defensively inferior, and putting up more big numbers, maybe making another quarterback into the next Max Duggan, and then you're a head coach? So I think that he probably is looking, and this is not an insult. It's just, what's the path of least resistance here for me?
Yeah.
And he probably thinks it's at TCU.
Back to the recruiting front real quick. You mentioned Tony Grimes and the percentages there and how you're feeling there. What are you hearing on Mason Cobb?
Not much right now, but I don't think there's anybody else really in the equation except for A&M at this point. So I would be surprised if he went anywhere else.
Okay. What about Tony Mitchell?
I've thought he was going to flip for a while. I still think he's going to flip, but nothing new at this point.
And then I know David Hicks was on his official, correct, over the weekend? DJ?
Yeah, DJ apparently has made it pretty clear that he's going to sign with A&M, and that Oregon and Oklahoma understand that.
Okay. And in conversations with him before, he made it sound like he wasn't very close to Anthony Hill. Do you think that ship has sailed, Hill?
I let me just put it this way. I think that his family made it clear before the weekend that there would be a lot of work to do for anybody to flip him, and that was before the official. So I think that they probably had any concerns they had taken care of over the weekend, and he's good to go.
Okay. So transitioning now to our guys who have declared for the NFL draft. Jamie, at this point, what are those guys going through? Do they already have their agent? Are they already training? What is this process like between now, the combine, the draft?
Right now you're kind of going through your training. Everything should be suited up for either the combine or your pro day. You feel like you got 2, 3, 4 months before you got to do anything, but it all goes by so fast, especially with the training and week in, week out, the 40-yard, all the testing that you have to do. So agents should already be picked out by now if you've entered that role. And again, it all goes back to the training. You're doing all of this preparation for about an hour of work that could determine whether you're a draft pick or if you're going to be going free agent. So there's a lot of anxiety, not knowing what situation you're going to end up in or what the cards may hold. But if you made the choice to come out, you should just be doing your due diligence of just working as hard as you can and preparing to have the best times and best stats you can available to go as high as you can. I think with the talent level that our early enrollees have, I don't think them being drafted is going to be a question. I just feel like had they come back, they definitely would have done themselves a service and gone higher than what they will go this year. But I'm pulling for all of them, and hopefully all of them find a good landing spot, because that's the most important thing. It's not necessarily getting drafted, but wherever you go, making sure it's a good fit, because that could be the difference in playing, being on special teams, being a household name, or just fighting for your life, which is no fun. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the guys that went. I can't argue with Antonio Johnson. He's going to be probably the first safety taken.
Yeah.
My argument against Devon Achane progressively got weaker as he played better. And now Kiper has him number 2 among all running backs behind Bijan. So can't really argue with that.
Yeah.
The only one where I would say I'm not sure that's such a good idea is Jalen Jones. And that's just because there are so many corners out there. And while he had a great junior season, he still missed 3-4 games.
Mm-hmm.
So now you look at last year where he was hurt, played through it, And then you look at this year and you miss 4 games. Even though he was a shutdown corner, health is going to be a concern with these teams. And not only that,
Oh yeah.
I hate to say it, but one of those games was missed with a concussion when he got flat knocked out at the Mississippi State game. So, those things take on increased importance in this day and age. I mean, we saw it with Ryan Swope. This was a guy who was an incredibly productive receiver, great hands, had all the speed in the world, but teams are absolutely terrified because of what happened with his concussions.
Mhm.
And then the Cardinals took him. He got one in training camp, and that was it. So teams are very cautious, in this day and age where you see CTE being thrown around fairly common. It's a violent sport. Jamie knows this. And when you get your bell rung, sometimes it's tough to shake off. And you have enough of those, and you can't play anymore, and it affects your life. And I think that in the case, it's a business thing, in that you don't want to get sued, and you don't want to lose money on a guy who's going to have this issue. But it's also just basic human decency. Do you
Mhm.
want to take a guy and put his life at risk, his future at risk, after he's already had concussions at the collegiate level? So that's a tough thing. And even though all I know is Jalen had one, but still, these are things that NFL teams are now increasingly cautious with.
Let's shift to Aggies in the NFL right now and how they're doing. I don't know if you guys caught the Texans game, but they went into overtime against Pat Mahomes. I know obviously the Texans have had their struggles this year. And Kenyon Green drafted in the first round to the Texans. What are you guys seeing from that whole situation? And then also, obviously, there's Myles Garrett. Von Miller is now out the rest of the season. What are you seeing, and what are some highlights from the Aggies in the NFL?
Well, Kenyon, I think is proven that he made the right choice leaving early. He's been a very good run blocker. He's been an okay pass blocker, but I think that part of that is just adjusting to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
When you're a lineman in the NFL, I can't think of a tougher job than going up against the guys that he's gone up against.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been fine. I think Myles is on another level. He's just crazy good. It sucks that Von got hurt, because I think that he really would have made an impact in the playoffs for Buffalo, because Jamie knows this better than anybody. When the brightest lights come on, Von responds.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
When it's a big game, go back and look at it. Oklahoma in 2009, Texas in 2009, the Super Bowl twice. When it's big time, that's when Von shows up at his best.
Mm-hmm.
The only positive out of that is the guy who gets more playing time for Von getting hurt is Terrell Dodson.
Yeah.
So that's a plus. Outside of that, it sucks. Clearly Mike Evans is having some problems in Tampa has nothing to do with him. That team's just not real good right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just not getting the ball as much as he should. And maybe I just took an implicit shot at Tom Brady. But looking at those guys, you see the highs and the lows in the NFL. I mean, Mike Evans is going to go to the Hall of Fame. Not getting the ball enough. Yeah. Kenyon's probably going to be an all-rookie player, but he's still getting beat. It's just one of those things where when you go from college to the NFL, even if you're in the SEC, which is NFL light, it's still NFL light. Mm-hmm. And everybody there is, all whatever conference they were. They're not there by mistake.
Yeah.
Jason Glenn told me a great story. I was like, when did you know when it was time to hang it up? And he said, I was with the Vikings, and we were having practice in training camp, and they threw this little out route to this rookie, Adrian Peterson, and I had the angle on him, and I was going as fast as I could, and I wasn't catching up. As a matter of fact, he was spreading the distance. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm done.
That's so
Oh
funny.
yeah. I mean, I piggybacking on the names you threw out there. I love. I just saw. I mean, unfortunately, they lost yesterday, but Donovan Wilson has been doing some good things for the Cowboys.
Yeah, he has.
I know Mixon has been dealing with some injuries here lately, so I saw Travion actually returning a kick. I think it was yesterday. He's getting a little bit of playing time, but not nearly what I think somebody at his caliber running back should have got. I.e., he should have came back for that senior year.
Mhm.
And then you go back and you think of other Aggies who left early. At my position, I'm thinking of Sternberger and Watermeyer,
Yeah.
who both left early. Both or Sternberger was drafted, Watermeyer wasn't, but it's like come back for that last year and put another stamp on it. You're only going to help your stock. Where both of those guys are unheard of right now in the NFL in a pass happy, tight end friendly league where they both have the ability. But it's like again, this is the thing that I try to get these younger guys to realize. You can be good. You can be all SEC. You can be all world in college and go to the NFL and be another blip. It's the best of the best. So give yourself a fighting chance of getting that one more year. But
Absolutely. Especially in the case of Weidemeyer, if you're going to go, it's like my dad always taught me. If you're out shooting baskets, you don't leave until you hit one.
Yeah.
Because you do not want to go out on a bad note.
Right.
And I thought that, Weidemeyer had a subpar season last year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much argument with that. And he still went anyway. I would not have done that.
Yeah.
With Sternberger, he had a great year. So I can't really argue his decision. But Weidermeyer's, I think, was a bad move.
Yeah.
And, he didn't get that last basket. He had a lot of drop balls. Didn't look like he was, fully engaged in some games. It would have behooved him to come back, especially when he went out there and ran a 5-something 40. At that point, his goose was cooked.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've kind of hit every topic between recruiting, coaching, NFL, college, hit every angle. And I'm sure this week will be exciting, not only Christmas on Sunday, but early signing day. Woohoo! So you guys keep up on top of it. I know Marky will be super busy with it all. And Jamie, we really appreciate you tuning in and chiming in and giving us your advice and wisdom and experience here on the podcast. So we will tune back in next week. Make sure you like it, share it, let us know what you think about everything, and come back next week.
And Merry Christmas.
Good.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all. You guys have a good one.